Paternity isn't just a legal issue, it's a legacy. And when that legacy belongs to someone like Jay-Z, the truth doesn't just get denied, it gets buried. For years, Roc Nation has quietly erased the people who got too close, silencing witnesses, burying birth records, making loose ends disappear. I should know, because for over a decade, I've been Jay-Z's loose end. This is the first time I'm telling anyone what really happened. I confronted him, face to face. I asked why he abandoned me. He didn't deny it. But what he told me that night unleashed something I still can't explain. Since then, something's been following me. Something that doesn't breathe, doesn't blink, and knows my name. They didn't just cut me off. They summoned something to erase me. And if a man like Jay-Z can abandon his own blood without a second thought, what do you think he'd do to someone like you? They say your father gives you your name. Mine gave me nothing. No phone calls, no birthday cards, no child support. Just silence. Growing up in Philly, I used to ask my mom who he was. She'd always change the subject, or worse, get quiet. Like she was afraid of saying his name out loud. As I got older, she started dropping hints. You look just like him. He was powerful, untouchable, but she never said his name directly. She died before I ever got a real answer. Since then, it's been years of me chasing the same question. Who made me? Not for fame, not for money, but because there's something rotten in your soul when you've been erased, like you were born out of nowhere, and the world is in on the secret, but you. I tried DNA tests, lawyers, filed paperwork myself when I couldn't afford an attorney. But every time I got close, the paper trail would vanish. Clerks would say, that case doesn't exist. Or worse, there was never a file in your name. Sometimes I'd hear whispers that he knew, that he was paying people off, that I should stop asking before something happened to me. But I didn't stop. And that's when they started leaving messages. It happened one morning at the corner diner on 4th and Broad. Same cracked vinyl booths, same smell of old oil and burned toast. I was sitting in the back, eating my usual egg white sandwich, when a man in a hoodie walked past me. Slow, deliberate, never looked up. He placed a coffee cup in front of me like he worked there, then slipped something under the saucer, a folded napkin. Didn't say a word, just walked out the front door like he was never there. At first I thought it was trash, but when I opened it, I saw 3 things written in jagged black ink. Safety deposit box number 514, Fidelity Bank, Broad Street, and a date, my birthday. Taped to the corner was a small scratched silver key, heavy, cold, too real to ignore. I looked around the diner. No one was watching me. But I swear the air in the room changed, like someone had cracked open a door that was never supposed to open. That afternoon, I walked into Fidelity Bank. The woman at the front counter scanned the key and nodded. No questions asked. She led me through a side door into a quiet vault room, walls lined with silent drawers. She pulled out box number 514 and left me alone. Inside, a cassette recorder, 2 microcassette tapes, a sealed manila envelope, and a photo. It was old, curled at the edges, a hospital room. My mother lay in the bed holding a newborn. Next to her, partially turned from the camera, stood a young man in a baseball cap. Even blurry, I knew the face. Jay-Z. I sat down, stunned. My hands started shaking. That photo didn't feel like proof. It felt like evidence. Like someone was finally showing me what they'd tried to erase for years. But that was just the beginning. Back at my apartment, I opened the envelope. It contained a stack of heavily redacted court documents, most of it blacked out. But I saw enough to recognize the name, Carter, and a title, Legacy Reassignment Protocol, 1992. Stamped in red across the bottom, Paternity severed, reassignment complete. There were no signatures, Just a warning. No further pursuit advised. Then came the cassette. I pushed it into the recorder. It clicked into place like it was waiting for me. The tape started with static, then a woman's voice, soft, nervous, my mother. Then a second voice, male, confident, cold. You sure you're ready to be a mom? I already am. Then silence. Then, if it's a boy, he's not mine. You feel me? The tape clicked off. Then, it clicked back on. I hadn't touched it. Same voices. But this time, there was a third sound layered under their words. Breathing. Not normal breathing. Something deep. Animalistic. Like it wasn't coming from a person, but from behind the tape itself. I yanked the cassette out. My hands were shaking. I looked up and saw my hallway light flicker once. That night, I stood at my window, trying to make sense of it all. And across the street, under the amber glow of a flickering streetlight, a man in a black suit stood perfectly still, not moving, not smoking, just watching. In his hand was an envelope. He never approached, never moved, just stood there, as if to say, you opened the box, now we see you. When I blinked, he was gone. I didn't know it yet, but that napkin wasn't a clue. It was a trigger, a signal. And now that I'd picked it up, someone or something was watching. And it wasn't just Jay-Z, it was whatever he belonged to. They always say the truth shows up when you stop chasing it. But it didn't feel like truth when I saw him. It felt like warning. That day at the office, I stayed late. Just one of those slow Tuesdays where the clock forgets how to move. I was behind on reports, trying to tune out the buzz of copy machines and burnt coffee in the air. That's when he came in. He wasn't supposed to be there. Not in our office. Not in that hallway. A man in a black hoodie walked right through the side entrance like he had a badge, like he belonged. He didn't, and I knew that instantly. No one walks with that kind of confidence unless they've done worse. He stopped at my desk, glanced around once, then leaned in, just enough for me to catch his scent. Tobacco, metal, and something sharper beneath it, like ozone right before lightning hits. You want the truth? He asked low. He dropped a thin folder on my desk, tapped it once with 2 fingers, and walked away. I blinked. Wait, yeah, gone. Not around the corner, not toward the elevators, just gone. I opened the folder slowly. Inside, a guest registration slip from a motel that doesn't exist anymore. Days Inn, just off Route 1, New Jersey. Room 211, December 4th, 1992. Registered to Sean C. Guest note. Meeting Wanda, keep it quiet. Wanda, my mother. Next to it, a photo strip, aged and curling at the edges. My mom, maybe 18, leaning close to someone who was cropped out. You couldn't see his face, just an arm. But that arm wore a Rockefeller chain, the old design from Jay's early years. No caption, no explanation. That was the first time I felt it in my chest, the rattle, the shift. This wasn't just a paternity case. Someone wanted this buried, and someone else wanted me to see it. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that chain, dangling above her shoulder. I heard her voice again, the one she used when she didn't want to tell me the whole truth. He wasn't famous back then, just loud, real sure of himself. And the way she said his name, like she'd made peace with never saying it again. I left the office early the next day, walked instead of taking the train. Something about needing air, needing movement. It was almost 5 p.m. when I hit Chestnut Street, the sky bleeding orange and gray. That's when I noticed him. He wasn't wearing a hood. He wasn't hiding. He walked slow, no phone, no bag, just staring. Not at me, not exactly, but through me. I turned left. He turned left. I paused. He did too. I crossed the street fast, half jogging into traffic like a maniac. Horns blared. I didn't care. I looked back. He was still there, not chasing, just walking, steady, calm. That was worse. I ducked into a corner bodega and waited, pretending to browse. 5 minutes passed. I stepped out, scanning the sidewalk. Gone. I exhaled hard. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Behind me. Fast. I spun around. No one. But the hair on my neck refused to lie. Something was behind me. Something was waiting to be seen. I ran. My shoes slapped against cracked pavement. I turned corner after corner, cutting through alleys and empty lots, breath catching in my throat. A shadow moved across a wall behind me. Too tall, too fluid. I didn't look back. I just ran. I reached my apartment steps, flung the door open, and slammed it behind me, locking every bolt I could find. For a full minute, I stood there in the dark, gasping, eyes on the peephole. Nothing. No sound. No knocks, no figure. But the fear didn't leave. It just changed shape. It whispered something I didn't want to hear. You weren't followed because you're paranoid. You were followed because you're right. That night, I took the folder apart again. The slip, the photo strip, every wrinkle, every pen stroke. I found a name at the bottom of the motel log. Elijah Dent. I Googled it. Nothing. But when I looked closer, the letters weren't even in a straight line, like it had been written with the wrong hand, or by someone who didn't want it traced. I flipped the paper over. There, in faded pencil, almost erased, "The vault has the tape." What vault? Whose handwriting was that? And what tape? The chill came back then, not just because of the handwriting, but because I could feel it again. Something outside, watching. I turned off every light in my apartment and stood by the window. There, across the street, under the flickering street lamp, a silhouette, no hood, no movement, just stillness, watching. I didn't go to work the next day. Whatever was in that folder had rooted itself into my spine, vibrating like an alarm clock I couldn't shut off. I sat at my kitchen table all night, rereading the DNA test request, the blocked subpoenas, and the legal gag orders tied in bureaucratic red tape. Someone didn't want this truth getting out. But someone else, someone watching me, wanted it exposed. I spent the morning at a downtown Philly law library. It smelled like dust and silence. I told the front desk clerk I was researching case law on public figures and paternity claims. She didn't ask questions. Maybe she'd seen the look in my eyes before. Someone haunted by something they couldn't name. I dove into every public record, tabloid article, and suppressed hearing I could find. One case led to another, and then another. Dozens of lawsuits buried in procedural dead ends. Men, fathers, claiming ties to children of Rock Nation artists. All of them silenced. Some settled out of court. Some vanished mid-case. Others had their lives shredded by anonymous allegations that tanked their jobs, their reputations, their finances. None of them won. None of them even got a fair shot. I found an old article from 2004. A janitor in Brooklyn claimed he had fathered a child with an up-and-coming singer under Rock Nation. 2 months after going public, he was arrested on trumped-up charges of assaulting a police officer. The evidence? Grainy security footage of a man who barely looked like him. Another case. A man claimed he was the real father of a teenage rapper. Rock Nation sent him a contract offering $400,000 to sign away all future claims under the condition he never speak publicly again. The contract had so much legal jargon and nested clauses, he didn't even realize he'd signed away paternity rights. By the time he hired a lawyer, it was too late. I started to notice a pattern. Each case involved sudden legal pressure, strange disappearances, or smear campaigns. And all of them had documents that led back, directly or indirectly, to one law firm, Morrison and Goldstein, Rock Nation's legal arm, same firm named on the back of the envelope I'd received. I leaned back in my chair, nausea tightening in my stomach. This wasn't just legal strategy. This was architecture. A system designed to erase people like me before we ever got close to the truth. I closed the folder. My fingers were shaking. And that's when I saw it again. written in the corner of the last page, like a watermark in disappearing ink. We preserve the image. The rest can be replaced. That night, I kept the lights on. I don't know what I expected, but I felt it. Outside the window, beyond the street lamps. A presence, not just human, not just watching. It was waiting. I tried to tell myself it was paranoia, sleep deprivation, but it wasn't. I heard a soft click at 2:16 a.m., a sound like someone tapping a fingernail against the glass. When I looked out the window, there was no one, but my hallway light flickered once. Then again, something was inching closer. The next morning, I met up with my friend Marcus, who used to DJ part-time, but now worked in facilities at various venues and restaurants. I told him I needed a favor, no questions asked. We sat in his truck, parked near a construction lot on Broad Street. I kept scanning the rearview mirror. I heard Jay's supposed to be in town, I muttered. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You mean Jay-Z? I nodded. Yeah, word is he's doing some closed-door fundraiser at Luther's. He blinked. That bougie jazz spot? Ain't no way you're getting in there. I don't need to go through the front, I said. You still got that boy that does the dish shift? Back kitchen? Marcus smirked. Julian, yeah, he owes me. You really gonna pull this? I didn't answer. I just stared ahead, my voice lower than a whisper. I need to see his face. That night, I dressed in black. Marcus dropped me off 2 blocks away. Julian met me at the alley behind the restaurant, cracking the side door open just enough to nod me in. I'll give you 10 minutes, he whispered. Then I'm ghost. Inside, it was dim, the scent of butter and scotch hanging in the air. The hallway was tight, kitchen clatter echoing beyond swinging doors. Julian pointed to a side corridor. Private dining rooms that way. You didn't hear it from me. I crept down the hallway, the sounds of music and laughter fading behind me. The walls were lined with framed jazz photos, Miles Davis, Coltrane, but even their faces looked tense, distorted in the low light. I turned the corner, and there he was, sitting alone in a velvet booth, head tilted back, sipping something amber in a heavy glass. Jay-Z, older than the photos, more haunted than the headlines, but unmistakably him. No security in sight, no entourage, just him, like he'd been expecting me. Jay-Z didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. As if my presence was a variable he had already accounted for long before I ever suspected him. The dining room was eerily still. Candlelight flickered in crystal holders, casting soft golden rings across the white tablecloth. The only sound was the faint clink of his ring against the glass as he set it down. You've been looking for me, he said calmly. Not a question, a confirmation. I stepped forward, chest tight, fingers shaking. You knew my mother, I said. Wanda Carter. He didn't answer, just stared. Those eyes. They looked through me like I was an echo of something already forgotten. I'm not here for money or fame, I continued. I just want the truth. He finally smiled, but it wasn't kind. The truth, he echoed. Everyone wants the truth until they find out what it costs. I have proof, I said, pulling the worn folder from my coat. Recordings, letters, photos. You were there when I was born. You said I wasn't yours and disappeared. Why? Jay-Z leaned back, folding his hands. You think I ghosted because I was scared? He said. I walked away because I made a promise, one I couldn't break. I swallowed hard. To who? He didn't answer. Instead, he slid a velvet pouch across the table. It landed with a soft thump near my hand. Open it. I hesitated. Inside was a rosary, burned at the edges, and beneath that, a photo. My mother, young, smiling, holding me in a hospital room. Jay-Z standing in the corner, just barely in frame, looking right into the camera. But it wasn't him that made my heart stop. It was the figure standing in the shadow behind him. Same silhouette I'd seen, same impossible stillness. It had followed me here. You made a deal with it? I whispered. Jay-Z's jaw tightened. I was young. They promised legacy, untouchable legacy. But the price wasn't mine to decide. I stepped back, the air suddenly thick. I was the price? Jay-Z stood slowly. It's not about paternity, not anymore. You were never supposed to make it this far. I'm not afraid of it, I lied. He gave a grim smile. You should be. At that moment, a door creaked open behind me. I spun. The room had gone darker. Candles flickered violently, and from the far end of the corridor, I saw it. Not a man, not a body, a suit filled with void, skin that shimmered like burned film, and no face, only the reflection of mine, screaming silently inside. I bolted. Through the hallway, past the jazz portraits whose eyes now seemed to follow me. I crashed through the kitchen. Shouts, pans clattered. But I didn't stop. Julian shouted something as I blew past the back door. I hit the alley. It was raining now. Slick asphalt. Headlights flashing in the distance. My legs burned. My breath tore through my throat. Behind me, footsteps. Heavy. Measured. A presence dragging something unseen. I turned the corner, nearly slipped. And then, headlights. A black SUV screeched to a halt. Get in! It was him. The man who dropped the folder. The one who vanished before I could say thanks. 50 Cent. He didn't wait for me to hesitate. He reached across the seat and yanked the door open. I dove in. The car peeled off. My pulse thundered. Did you see it? I gasped. He stared straight ahead. I didn't see anything. He passed me a bottle of water, his voice calm but cold. But I believe you. Why help me? Because I've been where you are, he said. And the truth? It doesn't save you, but it might save someone else. What is that thing? I whispered. He didn't answer, just drove. Outside, the shadows seemed to press against the windows. I'm not stopping, I said, even if it kills me. 50 glanced at me, his eyes unreadable. Then just don't let it catch you. We reached my apartment just before dawn. He didn't say goodbye, didn't wait to see me go in. Just drove off. Inside, I locked every door, every window, but I knew the figure would come again. Jay-Z, he wasn't just a man anymore. He was a guardian of something much older, much hungrier. And I was the crack in the wall. I was the crack in the... They tried to make me doubt it. They tried to make me run, but I'm still here, breathing, recording, fighting. And if Jay-Z made a deal to build a legacy that can't be questioned, then maybe I'm the crack in that foundation. Maybe I'm the flaw in the bloodline that wasn't supposed to exist. And I'm not done yet. Because you can kill a rumor. You can bury a birth certificate. But you can't erase the eyes of a son looking back. Do you think Jay-Z is hiding something darker than just paternity? Let me know if you saw what I saw. Or maybe you didn't see anything. Either way, I need to know I'm not alone. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because the truth doesn't survive in silence. It spreads when you speak. And someone's always watching to see who speaks first.